Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Matthew, can you tell us this recent council meeting? First of all, there are a few different issues touched on. Talk about the Wiradjuri Tourism Project first. Tell me a bit about that, please.
Yeah, look, that is an exciting project, and we've received significant funds from the state government to progress that whole Wiradjuri Cultural Tourism Centre, which is on Elizabeth Park. Again, that'll be a fantastic area there. It already is with our Shoryuan and our sensory garden, and that'll just add to that as a tourist attraction. But people are keen to see where it's up to, what's happening with it. One of the things that we're always very conscious of whenever we're doing anything is to make sure we do enough public consultation and make sure we've got people on board with the project. So we've been doing that and making sure that's really satisfying to as many people as possible across the community there. The important part is where people want to see things happen, they want to see sods turn, they want to see work being done. We believe with the rest of the consultation and the DA process that we're progressing with, by the end of this calendar year, so by the end of 2023, we'll see construction work start on that Wiradjuri Cultural Tourism Centre. And again, once that's finished, I think we'll see a huge amount of Aboriginal tourism, cultural tourism in this area coming along specifically for that area. But again, end of this year, you'll see some work start physically on that ground.
Excellent. Well, that's encouraging. Okay, let's talk about the roads breakdown. Now, you've been given $5 million. I can see now you've made some decisions here. I noticed Sheraton Road's not on the list. Very disappointed.
That's actually a good one. I'll talk about Sheraton Road in a minute because that was brought up at the meeting to work out exactly why Sheraton Road wasn't in the priority list. You're correct. We've received $5 million from the state government, just over $5 million in terms of some of the money that was handed out. $280 million was given to regional council, so we got $5 million of that. And we had to make a decision as to where we would do that. Now, this wasn't just for filling potholes. This was more designed for some heavy patching where you cut out some of the road and basically redo some of the roadway there. So it's really looking at some of those areas that are high traffic areas and that are in poor condition. Obviously, that's where the state government would like to see this money spent. So we had a discussion around that and made a decision about where that money would go. So the big ones first, Saxa Road, $1.3 million for Saxa Road, Bennelong Road, $1.2 million, Burrendong Way, $1 million, Renshaw McGurr Way, $720,000, and then some other ones, Dripstone Road, Obley Road, Collai Road. So those ones there, plus the money, we've already spent about $200,000 already just in some of the work we did as soon as we got that money. So that adds up to the $5 million that we'll be spending there. There was some discussion about bringing some other roads in and removing some of those, and there was an amendment moved at council, but in the end, we stuck with those ones there that we just mentioned through there. Sheraton Road was interesting because that was brought up as part of the discussion, but Sheraton Road, there are some obligations on a developer just around that area in Sheraton Road where the developer needs to make sure that the work that's being done on the trucks that are running over that road and are doing that damage, there's some obligation on that particular developer to bring that road back to the condition that it should be in. So rather than spend this money, which then would limit the ability for us to have the developer cover some of those costs, we're continuing those negotiations with that developer to get the work done, in particular that Sheraton Road area that's been damaged by that developer, to fix that area up. So that was seen as a better way to use council money to obviously spread things as thin as possible and cover the most amount of areas as possible. That was the decision made around there, which probably isn't perfect for Sheraton Road because it means it's going to take a little bit longer, but from an LGA perspective, it means that we can get the most bang for our buck.
Okay, well, that does make sense. Okay, the next, Bell River. Now, that was, they really received a battering during the flood. So tell me about the rectification works happening there.
Yeah, a couple of things there. One is in relation to Pioneer Park. There was significant damage done around Pioneer Park. Pioneer Park links up via our new pedestrian bridge across to Cameron Park in the main street of Wellington. A very popular area when soccer season's on. People walk there, drive their cars around there. So it's a nice popular area, but all that high flow of water that ran down there really eroded some areas there significantly, and you've got tree roots being exposed. So you've got some areas there that are severely damaged. Now, we didn't want to just take them back to be the same as they were because obviously next time around they'll just get damaged again and it'll be back to where we are again. So the decision was made to do some different work around there. We're working with Soil Conservation Service to get to the point where we'll have a different layout there. There'll be a difference in terms of where people will be able to drive their car. The pedestrian access will be different. So we'll change some of those areas, but we believe the next time you'll get those high flows of water, then you'll end up with the area being better protected. So there'll be some significant funds being spent there. We're talking about maybe $1.2 million being spent there. But again, that'll give us a good long-term outcome. The other one that many people have asked about is the Duke of Wellington Bridge. Of course, we already know, we've discussed it before. There was a report given to Council back in 2018 from the Soil Conservation Service about the possibility that the entrance road to the Duke of Wellington Bridge on the other side of the river, so the Wellington side of the river, that would erode to the point where you couldn't access the Duke of Wellington Bridge. And that Soil Conservation Service report had some estimations of how much it might cost to protect that bank to stop that being further eroded. Unfortunately, Council took no action. There was a workshop in the beginning of 2019, but councillors decided to take no action from that workshop. Nothing was brought back to Council to do anything about it. It was left as it was. And of course, at the end of last year, we saw that exactly as the Soil Conservation Service predicted in that report, that whole riverbank collapsed. The road access to the Duke of Wellington Bridge is now not there anymore. And so we've got to make a decision now what to do. And there are several options put forward there of what to do. Do we do nothing? Do we just knock down the bridge that's there and so you've got nothing left there? Do we try and refill all that bank that's collapsed into the river there to try and fix up that? Obviously, fixing it after the point is much more expensive than doing the work before the damage occurred, as that Soil Conservation report suggested. But in the end, what councillors decided was, let's get some costings. We don't know some of those costings. Let's get some accurate costings and then make a decision as to what we do going forward. So we're not doing nothing, but we're going to do a structural assessment, get some costings, and then at some point council will have to make a decision about doing nothing or knocking that bridge down or restoring it back to its former glory or having it as a pedestrian bridge. So at the moment, we'll just find out the costings and then we'll make some decisions going forward.
Okay. Now, anything else of note?
Only the last thing, I suppose, that was interesting in our confidential session, we had some tenders to deal with. One of the tenders was in our large sites electricity contract. This first tender was brought to the previous council meeting and councillors weren't satisfied that any of those tenders were good enough to go forward with. So councillors asked staff to go back out to the market, discuss that with the various tenderers there and see if we could come up with a better solution. And that was a good decision by councillors, because when we did that, or when our staff did that, the prices that came back were actually a bit better than they were at the last council meeting. So with that information on board, and with it being a very complicated and very volatile electricity market at the moment, the decision was made to go ahead with Iberdrola, and Iberdrola gave us the best pricing. It's a 7.5-year contract. Our current contract for large electricity sites ends in June this year, so this contract will take over from there, and that'll shore up our electricity pricing and give us certainty for the next 7.5 years. Again, it is a complicated market, but we think this is the best way going forward to make sure that we've got some consistency in those electricity prices. The nice thing about that, and it wasn't made for this decision, it was made more on a pricing decision, but Iberdrola is very involved in the Wellington renewable energy zone. So the wind farm down there, the Badengra wind farm, is owned by Iberdrola. So it's got a nice local context as well.
Excellent. Look, thank you so much for chatting to me, Matthew.
My pleasure. Always my pleasure, Sam.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.